The USS Nevada burned at Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, her bow resting on the bottom, her decks awash, 60 men dead and hundreds wounded. She looked finished. Photographs from that morning show a battleship wreathed in smoke and flame listing heavily, her superstructure shattered by bombs. Naval architects surveying the damage shook their heads. The ship would take years to repair, if repair was even worthwhile. She was an old design launched in 1914 representing technology from the previous war. Maybe it made more sense to scrap her and use the materials to build something modern. The Navy decided otherwise. Nevada was too tough to write off. She'd been the only battleship to get underway during the attack, the only one to fight back effectively, the only one to attempt escape. That kind of spirit deserved a second chance. The salvage crews went to work, and what emerged 3 years later wasn't just a repaired battleship. It was an almost entirely new ship, built around the original hull. The Nevada that bombarded Normandy in June 1944 bore only superficial resemblance to the Nevada that burned at Pearl Harbor. Then she survived 2 atomic bomb blasts and refused to sink. The morning of December 7, 1941, found Nevada moored alone at the north end of Battleship Row. Most of the Pacific Fleet's battleships were paired up, moored side by side, which made them sitting targets when Japanese aircraft arrived. Nevada's isolation was accidental. She'd just returned from exercises and hadn't yet taken her usual berth. That accident probably saved her from complete destruction. When the first wave of Japanese aircraft struck, Nevada's duty crews responded immediately. Chief Boatswain Edwin Hill ran forward to cast off the mooring lines the ship couldn't move while tied to the quay. Anti-aircraft guns opened fire. The engineering spaces brought boilers online. Within minutes, Nevada was building steam and preparing to get underway. Lieutenant Commander Francis Thomas took command. Most senior officers were ashore. He made the gutsy decision to take the ship out. Nevada began moving down the channel toward the harbor entrance. She was the only battleship that moved that morning. Every other capital ship stayed pinned to its moorings, either too damaged to move or unable to get steam up fast enough. Japanese pilots saw Nevada making her escape and swarmed her. Dive bombers screamed down, releasing bombs that tore through the deck. A torpedo hit struck the port bow. Fires erupted. The forward decks became an inferno. But Nevada kept moving her guns, still firing her engines, still driving her toward the open sea. The harbor control signaled frantically, "Don't block the channel." If Nevada sank in the narrow harbor entrance, she'd trap the entire fleet. Thomas understood. He ran Nevada aground at Hospital Point, deliberately beaching her to keep the channel clear. She settled in the mud, burning, but not blocking anything. The damage was severe. The torpedo hit had blown a massive hole in the bow. Bomb hits had penetrated the deck and exploded inside. Fires burned throughout the forward section. 50 men were dead and over 100 wounded. The ship was clearly out of action, but the hull was intact. The engineering spaces were functional. The main battery turrets were undamaged. Nevada could be saved. Salvage operations began within weeks. Crews patched the hull, pumped out flooded compartments, and refloated the ship in February 1942. She was barely seaworthy, but seaworthy enough to sail to Puget Sound Naval Shipyard for proper repairs. The voyage took her through waters still contested by Japanese submarines. She made it without incident and entered dry dock in April 1942. What happened over the next 2 years was extraordinary. The Navy didn't just repair Nevada, they rebuilt her from the waterline up. The original superstructure, a cage mast design typical of WWI battleships, was scrapped entirely. In its place went a modern tower structure bristling with fire control radars and communications equipment. The old anti-aircraft battery, a handful of 5-inch guns, and some small-caliber weapons was replaced by an enormous AA suite designed to throw up a wall of steel against attacking aircraft. The new Nevada carried 14 5-inch dual-purpose guns in twin mounts, 40 40mm Bofors guns in quad mounts, and 43 20mm Oerlikon cannons. This was more AA firepower than entire destroyer squadrons had carried in 1941. The Bofors guns were Swedish-designed weapons that could put out a tremendous volume of fire. Each quad mount could fire 480 rounds per minute combined. The 20mm Oerlikons provided close-in defense. Together, they created overlapping fields of fire that could engage aircraft at multiple ranges. The main battery remained the same 10 14-inch guns in 2 triple turrets and 2 twin turrets. But the fire control systems were completely modernized. New radar allowed the ship to engage targets beyond visual range. The optical rangefinders were upgraded. Ammunition handling was improved. The 14-inch rifles that had been designed in 1911 were now served by 1944 technology. The transformation was total. Compare photographs of Nevada in 1941 and 1944, and you're looking at 2 different ships. The 1941 Nevada had tall cage masts, a low-profile minimal AA, and a distinctly WWI appearance. The 1944 Nevada had a massive modern superstructure forest of AA guns, radar antennas, and looked like a ship that belonged in World War II. Nevada returned to the fleet in May 1943 and immediately began working up for combat operations. Her first assignment sent her to the Aleutian Islands, where she provided gunfire support for the recapture of Attu. The remote island campaign was brutal Arctic weather, tough terrain, and determined Japanese defenders. Nevada's 14-inch guns hammered enemy positions, destroying bunkers and fortifications that infantry couldn't touch. But her real test came at Normandy. The Navy assigned Nevada to support the Utah beach landings. Her mission: obliterate German fortifications, destroy artillery batteries, suppress defensive fire, and provide on-call fire support for advancing troops. It was the role battleships were built for, using their heavy guns to project power ashore. On the morning of June 6, 1944, Nevada took position off the Norman coast and opened fire. The 14-inch guns roared, sending 1 500-pound armor-piercing shells into German bunkers and artillery positions. The concussion was tremendous. Each gun's blast would knock you down if you weren't braced. The shells arced through the air and slammed into their targets with devastating effect. Concrete bunkers that could resist field artillery were smashed open by 14-inch shells hitting at terminal velocity. Nevada's fire control was superb. Spotters ashore called targets. The ship's radar tracked fall of shot. Corrections came quickly. Within minutes of receiving a fire mission, Nevada would be putting shells on target. German defenders who thought they were safe in reinforced positions learned otherwise. The battleship's guns reached everywhere, could destroy anything, and fired with methodical precision. For days, Nevada stayed on station, firing continuously. The crew worked in shifts, loading, firing, clearing the guns, loading again. The barrels grew hot. Shell casings piled up. Powder magazines emptied and had to be replenished from stores. The 14-inch rifles could fire 2 rounds per minute per gun under optimal conditions. In sustained bombardment, they maintained about 1 round per minute. That was still 10 1,500-pound shells every minute landing on German positions. The psychological impact on German defenders was enormous. You couldn't fight back against a battleship offshore. You couldn't hide forward, observers would spot you and call in fire. You couldn't run, the shells followed you. All you could do was endure, and many German units simply broke under the bombardment. Entire companies abandoned positions after Nevada pounded them for hours. The troops advancing inland loved having Nevada on call. A German counterattack could be smashed by naval gunfire. A stubborn strongpoint could be eliminated with a few 14-inch shells. The battleship became a kind of guardian angel, slow to arrive in 1941, but unstoppable in 1944. Nevada supported operations along the French coast for weeks, then received orders for the Pacific. The battleship transited the Panama Canal and joined the fleet, preparing for operations against Japan. Her next major action came at Iwo Jima in February 1945. Iwo Jima was perhaps the most heavily fortified island in the Pacific. The Japanese had built an elaborate network of bunkers, tunnels, and artillery positions. They'd studied American tactics and knew the invasion would begin with naval bombardment. They'd prepared positions to survive it. Nevada and the other battleships bombarded Iwo Jima for 3 days before the landings. The shells tore up the landscape, destroyed surface installations, and created a moonscape of craters. But many Japanese positions survived, buried too deep. too well protected or simply lucky. When Marines landed, they immediately came under heavy fire from positions that were supposed to be destroyed. Nevada continued firing for weeks. As Marines advanced, they called in naval gunfire on targets they couldn't reduce with their own weapons. The battleship's guns became precision instruments. Spotters would identify a cave entrance or a bunker aperture. Nevada would put shells directly on target. The Japanese defenders learned to dread the whistle of incoming 14-inch shells. At Okinawa, in April 1945, Nevada faced a new threat: kamikaze attacks. Japanese aircraft piloted by men committed to dying dove on American ships in suicide attacks. The battleship's massive AA battery proved its worth. Gunners tracked incoming aircraft, opened fire at maximum range, created walls of exploding shells that aircraft had to fly through. Nevada shot down multiple kamikaze aircraft. Others got through one crash close aboard, showering the deck with burning aviation fuel and debris. The crew fought the fires and kept fighting. The ship was designed to take punishment, and she proved it repeatedly. Bombshells, kamikaze attacks. Nevada survived everything thrown at her. By war's end, Nevada had earned 7 battle stars. She'd bombarded 3 continents: North America, in the Aleutians, Europe, at Normandy, and Asia, at Iwo Jima and Okinawa. She'd survived Pearl Harbor, complete reconstruction, and some of the war's hardest fighting. The old WWI battle wagon had become one of the most combat-tested ships in the fleet. Then came Operation Crossroads. The atomic bomb tests at Bikini Atoll in July 1946 were designed to assess nuclear weapons' effects on naval vessels. The Navy assembled a target fleet of obsolete warships, captured German and Japanese vessels, old American ships, scheduled for scrapping. Nevada was among them. She'd earned retirement in glory. She should have been preserved as a museum ship. Her history demanded it. But the Navy needed battleships for the tests, and Nevada was expendable. She was old, she was worn out, and she was tough enough to provide meaningful data. The first test able was an airburst detonation. A 23-kiloton bomb exploded 520 feet above the target fleet. Nevada was positioned 900 yards from ground zero, closer than any other capital ship. The blast was tremendous. The fireball vaporized ships at ground zero. The pressure wave smashed others. The thermal radiation set fires across the target fleet. Nevada survived. She took blast damage. Fires started on the deck, but the ship remained afloat. Her structure held. The old battleship, built to resist 16-inch shells, had just survived an atomic blast. The second test, Baker, was an underwater detonation. The bomb was suspended beneath a landing craft and detonated 90 feet underwater. The explosion created a massive column of water and radioactive spray. Ships near the detonation were capsized or sunk immediately. Nevada, again positioned close to ground zero, was lifted by the underwater pressure wave and dropped back into the water. She survived again, battered, radioactive, but still afloat. The ship that had burned at Pearl Harbor, that had been rebuilt and fought across 3 theaters, that had survived everything the Japanese could throw at her, had now survived 2 atomic bombs. The Navy towed Nevada back to Pearl Harbor. She was too radioactive to safely board. Decontamination was impossible. The radioactive material had been driven deep into the structure. Nevada was irradiated beyond any possibility of service. On July 31, 1948, the Navy towed her out to sea and used her for target practice. Ships and aircraft hit her with shells, bombs, and torpedoes. Nevada absorbed the punishment for hours before finally slipping beneath the waves. She went down fighting. The ship that wouldn't die had to be deliberately destroyed because nothing else could kill her. Torpedoes, bombs, shells, fires, atomic blasts. Nevada survived them all. Only a sustained attack by her own fleet finally sent her to the bottom. The Nevada's story is remarkable not because she was the best battleship or the most modern, but because she represented resilience. She was knocked down at Pearl Harbor and got back up. She was written off as obsolete and proved her worth. She fought in battles separated by thousands of miles and years of time. She adapted, survived, and kept fighting. The transformation from 1941 to 1944 illustrated American industrial might. The nation that couldn't prevent Pearl Harbor became the nation that could take a sunken battleship, rebuild her completely, and send her back to war stronger than before. The Nevada that bombarded Normandy was proof that America could absorb terrible losses and come back harder. Her crews, rotating through across the years, numbered in the thousands. Many were aboard on December 7, 1941. Many joined during the Reconstruction. Others served in the later campaigns. All of them were part of the story. The ship's history was their history. The men who died at Pearl Harbor, the salvage crews who refloated her, the workers who rebuilt her, the gunners who fought at Normandy and Okinawa, they all made Nevada what she was. Ships are steel and machinery, but they're also symbols. Nevada symbolized American refusal to accept defeat. She'd been sunk, raised, rebuilt, and sent back to war. She'd survived atomic weapons. She'd outlasted enemies and outlasted peace. And when she finally went down, it wasn't because she was beaten. It was because the Navy ran out of uses for an indestructible battleship. Somewhere off Hawaii, Nevada's wreck rests on the seafloor. The hull that survived Pearl Harbor, Normandy, Iwo Jima, Okinawa, and 2 atomic bombs is finally at peace. But the story remains a testament to toughness, resilience, and the ship that absolutely would not die.